Loving it. Um, so, so yeah, I mean, great path to where you are now. So you're now kind of landed
Yeah.
in the cycling world. Bit different
Yeah.
than the triathlon world, like you say. It's a bit less going on.
Very different. You
I
guys
know
wear
that.
socks.
I know
We
that
didn't
as
wear
I've now
socks.
switched. No, I now class myself as a triathlete because I can swim
Yeah.
50 meters in a pool. um, but yeah, it is. It's such it's a different sport, and far more, I suppose. In bunch racing, there's a lot of tactics going on, so
Oh yeah.
completely different aspects. So triathlon, I suppose, is a little bit more. Even the draft legal stuff, it's still a little bit more kind of individualized, where it is kind of more like a time trial, and then you move into the
Yeah.
cycling world, and suddenly everything's quite tactical. You got teams kind of, doing team
I
things.
think that's something that I think that's something that I realized very, very quickly. The the way you ride a bike in a bike race to the way you ride it in a triathlon is very, very different. And I mean, I laugh because I can see why. I know I was used to do the club run, the regular club run on the Ironman a few times, even when I was a triathlete. The stick that I would take from being a triathlete, all just like banter and fun and
Oh yeah,
games, nothing too serious. But the stick that I'd get, and I realized it when I came to cycling. I thought, we don't ride bikes in triathlon. Like, this isn't what we do. This is different. It's a completely different race. Um, and yeah, I had to learn that. I mean, but that's what made it exciting to me. That's what attracted me to the sport. A lot of the times in triathlon, I kind of felt like I wanted to do more on the bike,
yeah,
but in my head, I can't because I know I've got to run after it.
yeah,
And you sacrifice. You've got other sports to think about. So I really enjoyed actually doing a bike race and being able to race my bike. You don't get to do that really necessarily in the kind of triathlon that I was doing. Anyway.
yeah. Because you were draft legal. You were at
Yeah.
a high level, weren't you? So, um,
Yeah.
and like I say, even then, the tactics involved, it's kind of not really at all like doing a road race where there's all
Yeah.
sorts of things going on. Some of it may not have rhyme or reason why it's happening,
Yeah.
but a lot of
Oh,
it
I know.
is planned out. There's planned out kind of team tactics going on and stuff like that. And when it works, it's great. It's kind of like watching poetry in motion a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, if you watch professional bike racing on television and you see the teams working well together, it's just when you understand what's happening, it's so interesting to watch. um, but I'm sure you find that it's quite a big
Oh,
learning
yeah.
process and quite enjoyable, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it was very overwhelming. I mean, it's still overwhelming. I've only really, because of COVID, had one proper season on a bike.
Yeah,
I haven't raced like that much. I've got loads to learn. Um, Definitely. So it's overwhelming, but to me, it's exciting. In triathlon, I was doing it for a while, and like I say, got to a fairly decent level. I knew everything about the sport, and I really enjoyed like starting over again and
yeah,
being like, God, I've got so much to learn. And yeah, that's what I love about it.
yeah, and still plenty of
Yeah,
years left.
still
Yeah.
do. Oh yeah.
um so yeah, kind of touched on the COVID thing there. So obviously I'm in the Isle of Man, you're in Scotland. We've just started a new lockdown. Well, actually, no, we haven't. We start midnight a new lockdown now for 21 days. So, but we are extremely lucky. You've had it for pretty much a year
Nearly, yeah.
or off it. Um,
Yeah.
so, how have you coped with that? I mean, like I say, here, the Isle of Man's being extremely lucky. We've had like really short spells. The last one we had was 21 days. And just adapting to that short period of time, like adapting to a 3-week change, that for some people that blows their minds. Basically, you've had to
Hmm.
completely change a full year, basically. So how have you coped with that?
Um, I mean, I think at the start, the lockdown, when it all kind of kicked off last April, it was kind of, it was a shock, you know, for everyone, being like, because it all happened so quickly.
Yeah.
So I mean, even for uni as well, I was, you know, one minute I was in classes, next minute my exams were online 2 weeks later, and you know, it was crazy. But I think back then, it, you know, motivation wasn't an issue, because I think we all kind of thought, you know, it'll only be, you know, a couple of months, it'll be fine. And being in the summer, we were coming into the summer, the weather was amazing. So
Yeah.
for me, I was like, well, you know, I mean, I don't need,
Let my cat in.
oh,
Go on.
joining the conversation.
Here she is. Go on.
Oh, um, yeah, I don't need, you know, races or events to stay motivated, because I love training.
Yeah.
And I've always been like that. I just love riding my bike. Um, I mean, yeah, it gets hard when you've not got something to aim for. But like I said, in that first lockdown, you know, the weather was great. Like, I was just making the most of it, like getting out on my bike for out. And like I said, you know, Cameron, my boyfriend, being a cyclist, like I could do that with him, so we could spend more time together. You know, doing routes that we would maybe not necessarily. Oh, hello. um, get the chance to do, you know, just ride, because obviously usually your training's so structured, you know,
Yeah.
and built around the races that you do. We had no races, and you know, with no intention of any of them coming up any soon, it was just, you know, enjoy it.
So
But then
you
I think yeah,
so without the events being there, so you were still able to motivate yourself just by like training goals basically then. So if you
yeah,
had, so obviously we were still doing all your building all your workouts and everything in there for you. Um, and
yeah,
I do know you like working hard. So by putting in those sessions constantly for you, um,
yeah,
and you know, we communicate a lot together, don't we? So
mhm,
always keeping track of that, making sure that motivation was there, and you weren't kind of getting a bit frazzled out with it.
yeah,
Yeah, you did seem to really kind of just general trying to keep your fitness going really well. Um,
yeah.
keep that pattern going. So like the structure of the training for me seems to really kind of keep you on track and keep you kind of
Oh yeah.
motivated towards
I
a
mean,
long-term goal as well.
yeah, I'm a creature of habit, like routine, structure. I'm incredibly OCD, incredibly, with a lot of things. With everything, not just sport. I'm just very, very OCD. So to me, you know, structure's like, it was made for me. Routine, that's what I get out of sport. That's what I like about it. It's something I can control,
Yeah,
um, and that I can manage. And like I said, it gives meaning to my life. It gives me something, you know, I can get up in the morning. I know I've got this to do. You know, my mum always laughs and goes, "Oh, you were made for the army. That's what you should have been in. You know, you're OCD. You like structure. You like routine. I love everything about that. So
yeah,
for me, even though there wasn't any events, because I still, like you say, we were still structuring the training. I still had like little targets within the training. That was enough for me, to stay motivated. But then obviously this time round, as you know, we've gone into the winter, it's definitely been harder. You know, obviously it's dark the majority of the day.
oh yeah.
The weather's rubbish. We've had a lot of, like, you know, horrendous snow. So I was indoors for, was it nearly 3 months? I
Pretty
think
well, pretty
over the
much.
winter.
Yeah. I mean, well,
Um,
that kind of that leads me on to
yeah.
yeah, like how well. There's a couple of things actually. So we know you've been stuck inside for ages.
Mhm.
Thankfully, the world of Zwift has happened over the last couple
Oh,
of years. Um, so we know you've been doing a lot on there, and then I'll give a
mhm.
shout out to Russ Downing as well. So Russ has started
Yeah, definitely.
Donny Chain Gang, which
Yeah.
is on a Tuesday and Thursday. So Russ is an old teammate of mine, still a good friend. Um, and you were, you know, you started jumping on those Donny Chain Gang rides, which you know, as we both know, you absolutely love those things.
Yeah, that has been, I can't even, you know, you can't underestimate. Zwift, like on what it does for your motivation, especially during lockdown and winter. You know, I used before Zwift, I used to despise the turbo. I used to, I couldn't, you, I would even no matter the weather had to be bad for me to want to like go on the turbo. I hated it that much, and then I got Zwift, and I just like, I mean, now you can't get me off it sometimes. I just want to
No,
go on the rides. Like a lot. And then Donny Chain Gang, when you introduced me to Donny Chain Gang, that was it. I was like, I could do this week in, week out, twice a week. Like, I love it.
would you
And
have?
the whole community of Donny Chain Gang as well, yeah. Well, oh, which I have, yeah. I would, I love it. And like you say, the community, they've got a nice group on Facebook, and everybody's so supportive and so friendly. I've a lot. We've never really. I mean, I know they have, but I've not met any
No,
of them, and I'm sure
no.
there's people else on that group that haven't met people, and got them all on Strava now. They're all commenting on each other's rides and giving each other kudos and just stuff like that. That is what is amazing about cycling. Is the community.
Yeah.
I've been in other sports in the past. It's not as friendly, and that's not triathlon, but other sports. Growing up that
Oh
I've
yeah.
been in. It's just not. They don't have that community vibe, and it's such an amazing thing to be part of.
I think that's.
But yeah,
I think that's. I mean, I've been in cycling all my life basically, but I think since probably since this lockdown, or not lockdown, but since COVID has happened, and more people have taken to Zwift, so people have kind of been a little bit more imaginative, and they're doing more group
yeah,
rides. So I've started doing a Wednesday group ride, as you know, with clients and
hmm
friends and the likes. Um, but I think a lot of people are doing that, and it's kind of become like a social evening. So most people do it after work. So instead of coming home doing whatever training session on their own, they might have one night a week where they do a group session, or they might have 2 days a week where they do a group session, and it's on Zwift. They're using,
yeah,
so the Wednesday one I do, we use an audio app, so we're talking and um,
yeah. That's
matching up
amazing. That
the
even
odd
though that's
topics or
who'd have
whatever.
thought? Yeah, who'd have
But
thought we'd all be on Zwift?
yeah, but it has kind of brought more people in, because even when you do, I mean, our traditional group rides that we would do on a weekend, say, you'd be out with your group of friends or whatever, and it's pretty hard to talk to them all until you stop at the cafe. Then all right, you can have a
Yeah,
chat, but on Zwift, depending on what type of ride you're doing, you can be chatting backwards and forwards, and no one gets dropped because you do a locked in. Well, depends what ride you do, but if you do
yeah,
a no drop ride, you can have pro riders on the group, and you can have somebody who's just sat on a bike last week on the same group ride, and
yeah, definitely.
they can be chatting together. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's been quite good actually. And I was the same. I used to hate the turbo, I absolutely detest it. And I think over this winter, I looked back. So some of the guys I ride with, they'd be laughing anyway. I did a 5 week spell where I didn't ride outside at all, and it didn't bother me. I actually did not mind.
maybe we've just gone soft. What have we
Maybe.
done? I
Yeah,
think we definitely have.
maybe. But it has
Yeah, but
been
yeah,
it's been a big improvement, big change in the way people use it for training, I think. So whereas yeah, training indoors used to just be for bad weather. Um,
hmm
I suppose it's not an entirely new concept. I've done it with clients, I've done it with myself, where you would use the turbo at certain times in for extra
yeah,
sessions or really specific sessions. But there are days now where you might get more benefit, especially for keeping fresh in the head. You might live somewhere where you rarely get to ride with people anyway. So you might pick that one day a week where you get your group of friends and you're on Zwift
mhm,
together and you're riding together, and it's kind of like
yeah.
picks the mood up
Well,
again.
that's very much like me. We don't have where I'm based. We don't have like a club run.
Yeah,
Like the Alaman does. We don't have big groups of people to go riding with. So a lot of my riding is on my own.
yeah,
A lot of the time, that's what I get out of Zwift. Like you say, is just to ride with other people.
Yeah,
And like your Wednesday rides, to speak to people and speak to people back home, and people that aren't at home and people that you haven't even met, and it's amazing what it does for you.
yeah.
Definitely.
No, it's been great. Yeah, as regards a coach as well, it's a brilliant tool to use.
Hmm.
Like I say,
Yeah.
I get all my clients in one place in one ride, and how brilliant is that? And all chatting to each other.
Yeah.
I would never have been able to do that before. Not a chance. So
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
brilliant. Um,